Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Across the Pitch with myself, Dave Miller, and Jose Nunez to my left, I believe. Obviously, we're here today to review the heartbreaking MLS Cup loss from a couple of weeks ago. Of course, we've had a couple of weeks to sit on it. We all have really busy lives, so again, it's taken us a while to get here, but we're finally here. Before we get into everything as well, we had the end of season press conference today with Jim and Ernest sitting down with journalists to discuss the season gone and looking ahead to the future. We'll discuss that as well. We'll also have a look ahead to the World Cup, which starts this Sunday with Qatar versus Ecuador. But before we get into all that, you know the drill. We'll go into our sponsors. So the first one is Statement Games. So check out Statement Games at statementgames.com for a fun new way to do fantasy sports and entertainment. Win gift cards, prizes, and it's also free to sign up. The second one is Doan Distillery at the Trolley Barn Public Market in Quakertown. Visit doandistillery.com to check out their wide variety of drinks and spirits. Join and spirits. And then the next one as well is Vinny's Pizza and Restaurant, Allentown, PA. Discover their new and favorite by trying their top pizzas and so much more. Check out their new website at www.vinnyspizzarestaurant.com. And then, of course, another restaurant that we are sponsored by is Stuffed to the Grills at 675 Iroquois Trail. It's number 5 in Allentown, PA 18104 at stuffedtothegrills.com. Do homemade hot and cold sandwiches, salads, appetizers, baked goods, and more. They're also available for any event if you're looking for birthdays, sport events, whatever. And just finally, of course, get across the pitch gear and everything else on the AAT Sports Network at aatsportsnetwork.com/shop, where you can get everything from across the pitch to the stuff from the Wednesday show, everything really. That if you're a big fan of the network, go there and get all your gear. And now, of course, that's out the way. We'll look to, of course, the heartbreaking loss just a couple of weeks ago. The MLS Cup. Again, I think people are calling it the greatest game greatest game in MLS history in terms of MLS Cups or even playoff games. LAFC 3, Philadelphia Union 3 in the game. Went to penalties where the Union, the penalty shootout couldn't have gone much worse. They lost 3-0. I think you rarely ever see a team lose 3-0 on penalties in the shootout. It was a frustrating game looking back upon it, especially, LAFC went down to 10 men. The Union retake the lead late into the game in stoppage time. But then, of course, we all knew there was that. Jose will know as well. There was always that one joker, that one ace up LAFC's sleeve. And he's the man that, ultimately came on, shot every Union fan in the heart, and took the game to penalties where the Union were unable to, take full advantage. But first off, Jose, it was a game where I thought it brought the city of Philadelphia together. It brought a lot of eyes to the Union, which is, of course, we haven't really seen over the last couple of years and their rise to where they are now. But for you, again, you've been a Union fan for a very long time. Just run us through your emotions of the game and what you did for the game. I think you watched the game from home, didn't you?
I did watch him from home, though. Let me step back and say the irony of having a Brit across the pond pimp out restaurants in Allentown, Pennsylvania does not go unnoticed over here. Yeah. I absolutely love it. I did watch it at home, and you're right. It brought a lot of people together. It brought a lot of attention to the Philadelphia Union to the point, like, Angelo Cataldi on 97.5 on the radio was actually mentioning it. Unfortunately, mentioning that we lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting. I watched it from home. I know Mike, who is behind the scenes right now running the show, was at the stadium watching it in the watch party, and I can only fathom what the atmosphere was there, and really the peaks and the very deep valleys that came from that game, all within maybe 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Because I know what I experienced here with my 2 children and my wife was something I never want to experience again. No. I mentioned it for a long, long time, and I've been touting it. The Union have a problem in finishing games when they're a man up. We saw it with Red Bulls, right? We were a man up. against Red Bulls at home, a goal up. And somehow we ended up tying the game. Had we won that game, we maybe could be talking about having hosted the Cup at Subaru Park. But fast forward to the LAFC game, and just first and foremost, the chasm that is there between strategies and that of recruitment and squad building. And I know Mike and I got into it in the preview of the game, but LAFC brings on Gareth Bale. Who do we bring on for Curry Burke? Donovan. Like what is that? What is that? And it's all about strategy and how we purchase and how we build a team. But it just goes to show just the diametrically opposed methods of building a squad. And ultimately, am I proud of the Union? Absolutely. Am I ashamed that we lost the way that we did? Absolutely. We should not have lost. It should not have been a tie the way that it became a tie. But I'll throw it over to you. It's just, I'm super happy and proud, but it's also one that still stings weeks apart at this point.
Yeah, I think, again, as you said, it was a game where you could feel proud that the fact the team had went over to, again, I say it all the time on this podcast, there's nothing harder in the MLS than going on the road and winning away, or competing away from home, especially, when you go in the East Coast, it's okay. You can travel to New England, you can travel to New York, you have a good chance. You have shown that the last couple of years. But there's a massive difference competing there and then going across to the West Coast, and playing teams like the LAs, Colorado, Portland, completely different atmospheres, completely different sort of, completely different like temperatures, even in terms of like sea level as well, how high you are above sea level and things like that. Completely different world. And Union twice this year have gone to LA and they've played their asses off and they've competed, and there's not been a difference between the two teams. And as you said, the difference in squad building, the difference in the embarrassment of riches between the two teams, and the way they both build their teams. Again, the Union are very much centralized local team. They like to build from the ground up. They like to look within for their players. Whereas LAFC is a new franchise, which is Hollywood. It's Hollywood FC, really, isn't it? I mean, owned by people like Will Ferrell. The amount of money they've invested into the team. And again, as you said, Carlos Vela is their captain. Again, Carlos Vela is their captain. He's one of the best players in recent MLS memory. To then go out and get Boanga as well from Europe. And then, this sort of winter, the ultimate difference was them bringing in having the money to bring in the likes of Giorgio Chiellini and Gareth Bale to bring this team together and sort of become a sort of a mini MLS super team. I mean, again, you said it's a moment that was super proud. But I mean, just to go through the game again, and we don't want to relive the moments. But again, Kellyn Acosta gives LAFC the lead in the 27th minute in a goal that ultimately you could look at it and go, it did sort of sum up the way the Union's sort of afternoon really went. Because I mean, again, it was an unfortunate goal to concede, a really unlucky deflection of Jack McGlynn, which again, I think there was one of those free kicks was in a dangerous area. Jose Martinez, who we'll probably discuss a bit more in a little bit. I think you predicted it, Jose, on the previous show as well. He was going to have a poor game, or he was going to have some costly mistakes. He tried to be too clever on the ball outside the area. He lost it. He gave away a stupid free kick. Jack McGlynn, nothing really he can do. I mean, again, the ball's come off him and misdirected Andre Blake. You can't do anything about that. And again, Union are 1-0 down, and it was an unfortunate goal to concede. I mean, from your perspective, watching that, sort of, is the blame solely on Jose Martinez? Whereas again, it's a place you don't mess around with the ball and you don't give away a free kick in reaction to it.
Let me just first say that I hold no joy in being correct by saying that Jose Martinez was going to have a tough game, right? It's a shame it happened. It's a shame he played the way he did, or he had that mistake. But replaying it back in my head, I think about the free kick and the wall, which was built perfectly, right? You had everybody where they were supposed to be, the height scaling back from shortest, closest to Blake, to highest, away from Blake on the post that he's not necessarily covering. But where I think, and I hate to share blame or put blame on anybody, my understanding is both in a high school and collegiate level, and of course, not once touched the field professionally, you do not jump on a wall. If you're going to jump, everybody else has to jump. And if you're going to jump, you do not twist
Turn
while
your
you
back,
jump.
yeah. Do not
Right.
turn your back on the ball. Yeah.
So the turning of the back, hitting the back of the head, and then skipping away. I like to think that if McGlynn is facing forward straight up, that ball is hitting him right in the face, and it's a lot different than having a deflection in. But it's neither here or there. Just a bummer of a goal. And, in the chat, super producer Mike was able to answer my question. It was a game that I was not expecting to go the way it did, solely based on the fact that we held 53% of the possession. That is unbelievably high for the Philadelphia Union. And I would go ahead and bet, and I feel like I would be right, that the only times we've had more than 40% possession, or maybe more than 35, 38% possession, are the games that we've won 5-0, 6-0. And that's super heavy to think about, right? Like it's unbelievable. And here it was a barn burner, right? 3-3 and 2 penalties, but just goes to show this game in the first half had all the writing, or early on, I should say, prior to the goal, had all the writing of the Union just running rampant. I've never seen LAFC pinned back the way that they were pinned back that first half, this first 15, 20 minutes, where they were struggling to, as you mentioned, Vela, to find him and get him the ball, right? He is a game changer in a second at a drop of a dime. He reminds me a lot of actually Robbie Keane when he was playing for the LA Galaxy, and just what he could pull out of thin air to just score and make no mistake. Robbie Keane also burnt us at Subaru Park. I was there for that game many, many moons back, but yeah, unbelievable mistake and a free kick that just unfortunately deflects and nothing Blake could do.
Then, of course, we go back into the second half, little under 15 minutes in, just for the hour. Jose Martinez, I think he'd already tried 2 shots from about 40 yards already. This time he goes for it again, but this time it turns into an incredible pass as he somehow picks out Daniel Gazdag in the melee sort of around the crowded penalty area. Gazdag does brilliantly to sort of bring it under control before smashing it beyond Crepu and the LAFC goal, who will obviously become a talking point again a bit later on. And when we look at the game again, I mean, that goal, more again a goal like the first goal for LAFC, a lot of fortune about it, because again we've seen so many times this year where Jose Martinez has just drilled it 15 yards wide of the target. This time he's managed to get it more central, and I guess these are the sort of things that you might people moan about him, but sometimes if more of those sort of instances happened where he got caught up in the play of a Union's feet and then he creates a chance, perhaps more people will be in favour of them. But again, I think a great finish from Gazdag to not only just bring the ball into control, but rifle it into the back of the net. It was a great goal in a big moment, from the Union's talisman this season.
I would actually say that could become a strategy, right? Everybody's expecting Jose Martinez to hit a field goal like it's American football, but if Daniel Gazdag did do a great job at settling that ball and making something out of nothing, I actually could not believe what I saw, because I thought, did he really settle that? And then immediately in my head, it's like, was he offsides? And then I realized there's no way, because he was just so crowded, and for him to find the back of the net from where he was spectacular. And it just goes to show, bringing him back next year, hopefully this form continues to carry out, because this is I like to say, Gazdag with hair is the best Gazdag. Let that thing grow.
I think again, Gazdag's been the revelation he's become this year. This is everything that the team had dreamed of when they signed him, and more. I don't think anyone could have predicted him having like 35 goal involvements over the course of the season, and just being as influential as he was. He sort of was the man that made the attack go. If the Union attack played well, Gazdag played well. If Gazdag played poorly, the Union attack was ineffective at points. Again, I think he scored in the final and the conference final against NYCFC. So I mean, again, it's sort of a big player who's going to be massive in the Union's sort of attempts to get back to where they were this past season, and perhaps go a step further in the CCL. And then again, looking back, LAFC then retook the lead. Jesus Murillo from a corner with a thumping header. Jose Martinez let his runner go, and the defenders managed to get across him and thump a head into the back of the net. A frustrating goal to concede. But I think, again, Union fans didn't really have much time to dwell or be upset over it, because within 90 seconds, Jack Elliott thumping the ball into the back of the net, and the game tied up at 2-2, and everyone, the Union fans, myself and probably yourself included, Jose, are sat there probably thinking they could win this, they can nick this here, but they keep the momentum going. I mean, again, I was watching the game in the car on the way back from Filed, so I mean that was quite it got the journey. It allowed me to get through the journey a bit. But I mean, for you to go from the contrast of doom and gloom to, oh my god, they've lost it again late on, like the NYCFC game last year, to thinking just to sum up your emotions within that 2-minute period.
Yeah, I immediately go to thinking the head-to-head record, right? Four matches, 1 win for LAFC and 3 draws at this point. After everything said and done this year, the odds were against us, and I immediately sunk and thought, to score 2, let alone 3 goals against this LAFC team, it's going to take a lot for anybody. And sure, we were the team with the most goals this year, or we were just incredible, but LAFC is no joke. So you're right. My chest sunk. It absolutely sunk when I saw it. And then the fortunes of Jack Elliott and 2 things that happened afterwards that I must admit I was disappointed. One was myself. The other one was out of my hands. The tweet that the Philadelphia Union put out about Jack Elliott being better than Gareth Bale was just, in hindsight, it's one of those things of like, this could not be a colder take. This aged worse than milk, just awful. Yeah. But then also, when Elliott scored the following goal, as I'm sure we're going to talk about, asking my wife, "Hey, honey, can you stay home so I can go to the parade?" Yeah. Just that shit came out of my mouth, and I immediately regretted it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, should not have said anything, but carry on. Just in awe.
I think everyone probably put out a tweet or something. I mean, I think I may have said an Englishman's just won the MLS Cup. I mean, the reason why everyone's so confident in the Union, Maxime Crepeau got sent off in the 160th minute for absolutely wiping out Corey Burke and the absolute train that is Corey Burke.
Broke his leg.
And again, I was sat in the car, and of course, we're English people. We're sort of sat there going, doesn't matter. He's got to go. He's got to get sent off. And a lot of people were probably a bit more like in horror. Oh my God, I hope his leg's okay. The one thing, it sounds bad. The one funny thing, when he did send him off, I don't know if you noticed it. The referee got his red card out and pointed to the goalkeeper, going, "This is for you. This is you," and put like. As he's down, so just putting out the red card and just start pointing at Crepeau, be like, "Yeah, this is your red card, by the way." Like, but again, it was a 19-day red card. Even if he's broken his leg, he's basically stopped a goal scoring opportunity. And again, obviously, the game then they took about 10 minutes to get him off the field, which again, it's about 15 minutes to sort out the injury. Have to stabilize the leg, make sure he's all okay and everything. And obviously, Corey Burke as well being injured. So once that was all sorted, there was long time stoppage time, and Jack Elliott, again, as you just said, scored another. But apparently the Union only had 3 shots on target in the entire game and scored all three, which I know is false because the goalkeeper made a save to deny. I don't know, it might be Gazdag or Carranzo who headed it. The keeper made a save, which then allowed it to bounce in the direction of Elliott to score.
You're right. That is a false. That's a false metric there. That's not right. Yeah, there was a header or so that I recall thinking, how did that not go in?
And then there was Jack Elliott, literally just stood there on the post waiting just to thump it home. And at that point, I think everyone, again, with a few minutes left in extra time, you've got the man advantage. You just think. You can just take, the man advantage. You just try and, as Mike just said, when Jack Elliott scored, he blanked out for those 3.5 minutes, and he just thought this was it. Again, I think everyone thought it was it. I think, again, the way, as you said, Jose, that the time before, this now looked bad. I mean, the Union perhaps do have an issue of trying to see out games, but in that sort of predicament, you think, okay, the Union can see this out. They should see this out. They're against 10 men. But cometh Gareth Bale, someone must have whispered in his ear that, the Union Twitter account said this guy's betting you, because there it cometh Gareth Bale as he out jumps Jack Elliott to thump a header beyond Andre Blake and send the game to penalties. Again, Gareth Bale, very, very good player. That's what he does. I mean, that's what he's done for his whole career. He's come up with big goals in the biggest moments and in the biggest games. So yeah, I mean, we go to. Sorry.
No, Dave, what's unbelievable, I had to look it up because I thought to myself, yes, you're right. Gareth Bale, no one will ever forget the bicycle kick for Real Madrid where he scored in the Champions League final. No one will ever forget that.
Yeah.
Elliot is 6'6". 6'6". I don't know what that comes out to you and
Oh yeah, 6'6", yeah.
Okay. 6'6". Gareth Bale is 6'1". That's a 5-inch difference that he made up. That and strength. It's unbelievable. And sure, going up straight up versus coming across is a different thing.
Yeah.
But just hurts.
I guess the issue is perhaps Bale was perhaps more prepared for it than Elliot, because I think Elliot was a bit flat-footed in the movement. Again, it was just frustrating, and the penalties were the penalties. I mean, everyone. I saw some people, taking a dig at Gazdag for missing this penalty, and I'm like, well, how the fuck? Again, I have no issue with players missing penalties. I mean, they've had the balls to step up and take it. Penalties is potluck at the end of the day. Whatever happens, happens. They've had the balls to step up and take it. Don't then be quiet whilst they've had their best season of their career or best season of any Union player ever, and then pipe up when they have the one bad moment at the end. And Gazdag has been the one constant in this team this year. Again, when they've had striking blackouts, when Uwar's been ineffective, Burke's been ineffective, and Carranza's been ineffective. Gazdag's still been there, scoring goals, creating chances, being in the bunch. He's been this team's heart and soul this year. If he goes, the team goes. And again, he's going to be so crucial next year in the CCL and the league as well. It's just an unfortunate loss. I think everyone just sat there going, we hate penalty shootouts. And of course, I mean, I came up 3 days later with a message saying I love penalty shootouts for a completely different reason.
You know what, though, Dave? We love them and we hate them, right?
Exactly.
I think we all, and I can think of a few members of Union Twitterverse that, whether exist or not after we're done with this call, I don't know. It seems like Twitter's disappearing every other minute according to social media. Yeah. But we can no longer, as a fan base, make fun of Nashville for their penalty kicks. We cannot. Everybody needs to pipe down about the Nashville penalty kicks, the Zimmerman kick into the river. No more, guys. We're humans. We flew too close to the sun in a way with some of the stuff that we were doing. And, even to back up, I think of that run of play on the sideline with Mpaizo and whoever else was with him at the time leading to the cross. If I'm Mpaizo, I'm either fouling or I am taking that ball. And unlike the New York Red Bulls guy who went to apologize, I am taking someone's head off in the stands by just kicking it as hard as I can, kicking it to a different zip code, a different province, whatever, just letting it out.
Screw them. I mean, when the Union scored, I don't know if it was the second or third goal. They were throwing bottles at the Union players throughout the entire game. They're throwing objects the entire game. Screw it. If you twat the ball in the crowd and hit someone in the head, fuck them. At the end of the day, you're seconds away from winning the MLS Cup. I mean, I agree, but again, I guess he's in the catch-22 where if he does give away the foul and they score from the free kick, everyone's like, well, the fuck's in the Bizo, just let the cross come in. And sort of, I guess he's in the catch-22 there. But again, it was
the
nightmarish way. I mean, again, looking at it, probably again for the moments and the exhilarating moments of the Elliott goal, moments later in the header, to think they've won the game. I think most people would have probably looked at it and gone, now on the face value, I'd rather just let Murillo go goal in and we lost that way as opposed to have gone all the way to penalties and then.
Yeah, and it stinks. It stinks it was Mpaizo again, right? Somehow involved with another weird run of play that leads to something last year with New York City FC during the COVID game this year, not blocking the cross or leading into that, just not hitting it 100 yards down the field. Just it's just something about that man. He's just chaos.
As well, I think the unfortunate thing as well, they didn't have Corey Burke on the pitch, really. Someone that we know is a brick shithouse, really. Someone that, he's good in the air. He can cause chaos. He can hold the ball up. That's someone, they could have just hit down the line and had him hold the ball up in the corner for a couple of minutes, just trying to waste time. That also didn't help again, I guess. Like, that's one thing that the Union are going to struggle to replace, is finding a big bruiser like Corey who can do the dirty work, who can be physical in the air and win the nasty headers and things like that. Again, obviously, we'll move on in a second to that, because obviously Corey Burke, I believe, is going to New York Red Bulls. He's signing for them. At a similar time, of course, I think around this similar time, the what's it called? The game was going on. It might have been before it or during it. The Paxten Aaronson news broke that he was signing for Eintracht Frankfurt, and that deal was gone through today as well. If you want to stick on that for a minute, because I'm currently just sort of doing an article looking at Ernest Tanner's sort of key quotes and key things that he said in the press conference, because it was 40 minutes long, and I'm just going to split out between Jim and Ernest as opposed to doing a 2,000 word article. But I think again it was for the praises for Paxton, and he just sort of said again he's been unlucky this year. We haven't seen him as much this year as opposed to last year, because Daniel Gazdag's been undroppable. You can't drop him unless he's injured. You can't drop him. And again, he didn't get injured. So again, Paxton found his opportunities limited. And when he did start half the time, he's usually playing on the right or the left or up front, which isn't his natural position. So again, he perhaps struggled a bit more than we would have liked to have seen. But again, he's excited to see him go over to Eintracht Frankfurt. He knows they're a club that can develop young players. And again, it's a club that will have excellent coaches that will guide him along. And he's confident that, he could get opportunities this year. Because again, like the Union next year, the Eintracht Frankfurt is in 3 competitions. They've got 20 league games left to go. And so again, 20 league games in the German Cup, the Champions League. There could be chances of Paxton to come in to make sub appearances, if not start the odd game or two. So again, it's going to be exciting to see another one of the Union Academy products go off into the wilderness and try their hand at European football.
Yeah, I think I had put out a message or a tweet out there, and this is again another vote of confidence in the mission that the club has, right? Whether it's accurate or not, I think it's maybe hidden with, or you can read between the lines that this is their mission, right? Of developing youth that can be a constant across our team now and our team in the future, but certainly abroad as well. And this is just another incredible move that paves the way for the young kid from Pennsylvania that's thinking about playing soccer and thinking about it really, really hard. And he has the opportunity to pick academies. Why wouldn't you go to the Union after seeing the Aaronson brothers make the leap the way that they have? Though the fee seems high, I must admit, for I think about a thousand minutes worth of soccer. And you're right, you cannot drop Daniel Gastag in the way that he played this year. No. So my guess is that the fee associated with the transfer has to be based and baked in with his performances at the international level, at the U20 level.
I was going to say, I think as well, it'll be interesting to see if there's any sell-on fees or percentages or things like that might come along with it as well.
I believe there is. I believe that there are, and that's another beauty of it, right? Like
one,
4 million, and then if he does well enough, he can jump somewhere else. Maybe, just maybe, he's playing in the Premier League against his brother or with his brother. Who knows? It's crazy. Mike mentions it in the chat. If Paxton would have played more in the MLS, maybe the fee would have been less, because he would have been exposed more, right? Versus the way that he thrived at the national level and just really made a lot of teams look silly this year internationally.
I was going to say, I think as well, probably would be shocked to see him playing for the Frankfurt second team a lot this year, just to get him acclimatized to German football. But I think, again, it's interesting as well, because I think they were sort of asked how they approached to replace Paxton, and Ernest sort of was quite adamant that, again, why can't Quinn Sullivan do that job? Why can't Quinn come in and play the 10 and be the backup to Daniel Gazdag? He's a year younger than Paxton as well, so again, he's got that extra year on him in terms of the progression and development he's had. Because again, I think last year, again, Paxton was good, but I think Quinn was probably the standout of the 4 homegrowns that came into the starting team, came to the squad last year, and again, he perhaps was the one that was sort of left behind a bit last year as well. I mean, obviously Paxton, when he's come on, he's done more for the international team. He's got the big move. Harry All's become a first team starter, one of the first names on the team sheet, dependent on the fixture. I mean, again, if it's more of a game you're going to defend. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think for you, Jose, as well. Is there any other areas of the team that you sort of feel like they need to approach, or in the transfer market?
I'm just really intrigued about the striker situation. You know, we struck gold with Carranza, literally struck gold. If not, we sold a bridge to Miami with the fee and everything that we just completely swindled them. You know, fleeced them for an incredible player. But you know, even during our conversation with Thomas, that if you haven't heard it, please check back in the files on YouTube. The throw-in coach that works with Liverpool and worked with the Union this past season, Corey Burke brings a lot of advantages because of his height and his strength, both in the way that he can, you know, just skip the ball past his head on a throw in, or really just challenge and keep pressure while the ball is just being tossed up. So it'll be interesting to see what we do. I know we typically, as the Union, I don't think it's a it's a protocol thing, but we don't typically shop within the MLS. So I'm intrigued, or anymore, I should say. I'm intrigued to see who they bring in or what the targets are. And my guess is that the targets are going to be names that we never really expected or don't really recognize, and we'll have to do some serious research or within the academy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well because you said like looking at player, as you sort of said, looking within the academy. Jim really did allude to sort of again this preseason. Again, it for some player people might look at it as it doesn't matter, but for them it's huge for their preparation because he's going to involve a lot of the academy players, whether from the Union too, whether they're signed or unsigned. It's going to be a massive opportunity for them to prove themselves. There are a couple of players in the academy that are likely to be possibly pushed up into the first team. Ernest has already sort of said the priority for this summer or for this winter. Sorry, I'm so used to the main transfer window being in the summer, but the main focus this winter is going to be signing another centre half because they need one. Because obviously Brandon Cray's still a young player. You can't really rely on him to be that third choice centre half if you've got a big injury crisis. An additional midfielder, so that's to me is an interesting one. It perhaps says they're expecting the midfielder to leave, perhaps maybe Martinez, whoever that. Or maybe just replace Paxten. I don't really know. But next additional midfielder and striker. They're looking to sign a striker. I'd be shocked if it wasn't the big target man like one, like Corey Burke, someone that can be a like-for-like change. But again, it's going to be interesting. And Ernest is also an interesting bit here. He wants to have a squad of 27 to 28 players so they can compete on all fronts. Because again, he alluded to next year, the players will be playing in full competitions. International competitions, I believe the US Open Cup, the MLS, and the CONCACAF Champions League. There's going to be a lot of game time for the players next year. And, of course, they're going to have to make sure that the quality in the squad spread evenly. I think we mentioned, I think we saw it when we were in the CONCACAF Champions League last year, Jose. This team really lacked depth. We saw it in the amount of points they lost, having to change the system, having to completely wipe out half the team and play the inexperienced kids and play other players because they didn't have the depth and they lost games because of it. I think perhaps they've learned their mistake from this time because I think we saw the difference in quality of the results from when the team was in the CCL to when they were out of it and they started to hit their stride again. You're on mute, Jose.
So sorry. It's crazy, you know, when you have this many games and you really get into the territory of what European teams have to deal with when you have that many competitions, having to juggle a squad and never mind the personalities and the promises that you make as a coach to the different players, trying to figure out, you know, when can we put a B squad out there and sneak through to the next round without really doing anything crazy. So this roster building this winter / leading into next season, spring, is going to be really interesting. You know, I think I'm prepared to see some faces that we absolutely love just leave, and that's fine. I think Paxten was one of them. Catchy song from the 140 section every single time he would go out to warm up. But Martinez, I'm fully expecting for him to get an offer, or us to get an offer for him, and certainly for Kai Wagner to get an offer. I think Daniel Gastag is going to stick it out and stick through, and
Hopefully.
and yeah, hopefully. Though I wouldn't be surprised if there's some team that's interested in him as a playmaker that they could use. And you know what's going to be really interesting too is it's going to be how much movement comes from the World Cup, right? As players continue to drop like flies in the hot summer in Doha, Qatar. What does that mean for teams in the European realm that need to pick up players from other portions of the world, right? Could a Premier League team use somebody like Kai Wagner? Probably. Could a French team use somebody like Kai Wagner? Absolutely.
Well, I mean, the rumours Leeds, Jesse Marsh and Leeds are still really, really interested in him, and they don't have an out-and-out left back, and that's the big thing Leeds fans have been crying about this year is their lack of a left back. So I mean, it's a like for like fit, really. As you sort of said, well, the World Cup. I mean, again, that could make the MLS perhaps more appealing because you look at the league; it's just come off the end of the season. The players are going to have a longer break as opposed to the players in the big European leagues that have gone. And we've got a lot of talented players in this league as well. We saw Castellanos go to Girona in the summer. But again, you look at it could be the sort of league that some teams perhaps look at to try and scout some cheaper talent and invested talent. But as you sort of said as well, it wouldn't shock me if Daniel Gazdag left in winter, which would be an absolute catastrophe for this team. It wouldn't shock me if a team like Red Bull Salzburg went in and picked him up to just bolster their title charge. They've already found a good player from the Union already in Paxten Aaronson. Why not carry on with that relationship? I think that he will probably end up someone like Germany. I think that's my sad yet bold prediction for Daniel Gazdag this summer.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It's more of a guessing game with the Philadelphia Union than it is with New York City FC, where they have a literal ladder of teams to climb up and down with the city group. So yeah, I'm intrigued. Will I be disappointed and sad initially? Would I be thrilled to continue to boast the Philadelphia Union building, the Philadelphia Union training, and the method, I guess you could call it? Absolutely. I think it's another vote of confidence for us to see another Philadelphia Union player make it out internationally outside of my gosh, at this point, McKenzie, Brendan Aronson, Aaron Trusty technically, but not really. It's fascinating to see us flourish this way. And I'm sure there's actually, and I probably misspoke, I'm sure there's other teams that are doing a lot of this, selling to international teams or European teams that we just don't notice. But it certainly feels like the Union are the name that continues to pop up when we talk about transfer fees to Europe and teams of serious contention in different leagues.
Yeah, I think as well, one thing that won't be an excuse perhaps this summer will be the lack of perhaps money to spend on transfers. Because I mean, again, you've just got $4 million for Paxten. You're going to get a good sum of money for Jose Martinez, Kai Wagner. There's also talks that Olivier Barger might be leaving this winter to go back to go play in Europe. Even if you lose Gazdag, that would be a lot of. Hopefully, you manage to keep 3 of those players. I mean, Wagner, I'd probably consider, but God, I would be really shocked if he doesn't leave. But obviously, Mike's just put in the chat as well. Again, we were just discussing Quinn Sullivan earlier. When does he get his minutes? I think this year. I think he will be the replacement for Paxten. He will be the backup number 10 this year for this team. I think from the way that Ernest sort of spoke about him in the presser and sort of said, like, look, he's a very good player. He got a year on Paxten as well, so I think that will be the player. And again, Cole Turner, of course, one of the homegrown players that didn't pan out with the team. Hopefully he lands himself somewhere good in the US and finds a good MLS team to, land on. Maybe FC Cincinnati. That wouldn't shock me at all.
FC Cincinnati just spent $3 million on a 22-year-old that may or may not play. So
really?
Chris Albright over there and Pat Noonan certainly have a different sandbox to play with when it comes 100%. To monetarily versus the Philadelphia Union. So, to Cole Turner's point, I did not watch a whole lot of him outside of the random Union 2 game, and even then, sometimes he wouldn't play. But he does strike me as someone who's going to stick to the U.S., someone who is going to probably flourish, if not spend the rest of his career at the USL level, which is totally fine. It's appropriate. It's perfectly fine. Just intrigued since he is through and through academy, right? I don't know that he. I don't believe he did any type of collegiate soccer, so he hypothetically has 4 years. Actually, no, because I don't know how it works anymore. Actually, with NCAA, I don't know if he has 4 years of eligibility since he never played NCAA, but I guess he did play professionally in a way. So, just best of luck to him. Thank you for the time, and I hope he lands somewhere that makes sense.
100%. It'd be good to see him. Hopefully, get somewhere where even if he's not a start, he's a good rotational squad piece. Again, it's just somewhere we can land his feet. And again, I'm sure if he does well, Union fans will be championing him as a homegrown hero somewhere else. If he does end up, doing something in the West Coast or whatever. But I mean, I know before we round up the show, I mean, again, this Sunday marks the start of the World Cup. No matter what, again, it's going to be a World Cup that will probably be remembered for the most part. For the large part, for the wrong reasons. Again, we'll look at before we dive into our predictions. I just want to look at some of the things I've seen on social media at the moment. I mean, Landon Donovan's World Cup bracket has just come out. I don't know if have you seen that?
I just saw that.
It's a disgrace. I mean, to say no respect to USA, but I mean, again, it's plausible they could get to semi-finals. But I mean, again, they'd have to go through France, which is going to be a very, very tough ask. But then to have Cameroon get to the semi-finals is another story. I mean, to beat that Belgium team as well, with Kevin De Bruyne, Lukaku, Courtois, that abundance of talent, did a collective tear.
You know what? You know how Cameroon got past Belgium, in Landon's mind? It's because Mbaizo was playing.
Oh, yeah, that's
exactly why.
Olivier Mbaizo locked down Yannick Carrasco and Eden Hazard and but again, incredible sort of thing. America gets to the final as well. I mean,
Landon Donovan, American legend.
Everton legend.
Now, to that elk too.
I mean, again, there was another post I saw that Sports Center put out. I don't know if you saw that, which is nice and controversial.
What was the post? I'm sorry.
They basically did a post saying, "Imagine if the US men's national team at the World Cup sent all the best US athletes instead."
It was so disrespectful.
The athletes were Patrick Mahomes, Austin Matthews, Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo, LeBron James, Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Patrick Kane, OBJ, Steph Curry, and Saquon Barkley. So, I mean, that was the tweet. And all I will say is right now, I mean, if you showed someone, the average football fan in Europe, that post, I think they would probably know two to four players at a push. 2 to 4 players at a push, I think. LeBron James is obviously one. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr. or Steph Curry is the other one. But again, I mean, the game, the US sports, again, it's such a shame that it's sort of overshadowed. I mean, again, after the success the MLS has had this year, I think it's been a very good spectacle. But again, it's just the ignorance towards the game and the way that the US views its own sports, which is sort of isolated to itself in its own country as opposed to the global sport. It's football is quite still a big shame. Because again, you look at that US team, a lot of players applying their trades in Europe where they're going to be much more well known as opposed to Mookie Betts and Austin Matthews. Patrick Kane, I have no idea who they are.
I don't even know who they are.
That's what I mean. You don't even know who they are. And I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, I'd like to know if Mike knows who they are as well. But again, it's so disrespectful to a Christian Pulisic, a Gio Reyna, Matt Turner, who's playing goal for Arsenal. These are players that are playing on some of the biggest stages in the world in terms of in the footballing sense. It's a big shame to see that. Mike's obviously put in a question as well. Who will have the better World Cup performance, Mbaizo or Aaronson?
I would say I think Aaronson has a 20-time fold more chance to actually see the field versus Mbaizo. I think Mbaizo is definitely a depth player for Cameroon because I don't think he really saw the field much at all during the African Cup and let alone any of the qualifiers beyond that. So
did he come on at all today? No, he didn't. That's a shame. Who does their right back play for? He plays in the Saudi League. You never know. I mean, you might see the field a bit, but yeah, I think I'd be shocked if Aaronson doesn't start and plays a key role. Whether the US team gets out of the group or not is be a different question. I think he'll have to play very well to help them get out of the group, I think.
Yeah, Bale might put a dagger through the United States.
God, yeah. Hero in LA one week, national enemy the next.
Oh my goodness!
I think again. I mean, England again. This group, this might be one of the tougher groups in the entirety of the World Cup. Like, you look at the strength of this group. I mean, again, the way that England have been playing recently. England aren't. I mean, again, you know that England are very well known on the global stage for being cocky and we're the best team, whatever. But like, the way we've been playing recently, we're not guaranteed to get out of this group either. I mean, Wales are a very good team. The US, although they've been iffy the last couple of years in terms of their qualifying results, they still know how to win the big games, which again, this is going to be the big one for them. Iran, again, the last couple of World Cups, they've been knocked out in the group stage, but I think the fact they got to the last 16 and won the World Cups, I'm sure. But again, they've been
serviceable for sure.
They've given a good account of themselves. It's going to be a very, very tough group. That's for sure. I think for you looking at that group, I mean, will you be supporting America at the World Cup, Jose, or are you going to be just a neutral hoping for Union players to do well?
I'll be a neutral. I must admit, my allegiances lie with Brazil. I'm not Brazilian. I lived in South America, but if you live in South America, you typically know that it's all of South America versus Argentina most of the time. So my allegiances are with Brazil this time around, and that roster looks unbelievable. I have a really hard time seeing how that team doesn't win it, but I really do hope that the United States fares well, and certainly rooting for all the Union players or the Union connections within that that team. Though I must admit, still very perplexed about some of the inclusions to the roster for the United States. Just very, very confused of one omission, certainly with Mr. McKenzie doing so well out in Belgium, but getting the cold shoulder from Greg Berhalter. Just really, really interesting. So we'll see. I bid them well. I hope that they do well, but very much neutral.
I think, again, it's going to be an interesting group stage. I think if England can get out the group as winners, I think they'll get to the quarterfinals. Or I think they play Argentina, I believe. Unless, actually, no, do we? No, we play the French. We won the group, actually. I think, because... yeah, that's right, because of...
I think so, yeah.
Landon Donovan's got America winning the group somehow, for some reason. But yeah,
for some reason. Sly.
No, but I think, with all seriousness, I think that Wales USA game is going to be the big one, I think, in terms of maybe that who will come out of qualifying of the two. I mean, unless, which wouldn't shock me at all if England come out and throw an absolute stinker and get 2 points in their first two games, and they're going into that Wales game, having to win to get through again. But yeah, I think it's really an exciting time. Of course, you'll sit in there, you'll be rooting for Brazil, or I think it's Brazil and Uruguay, isn't it? I think it's Brazil, Uruguay, and who's the third?
Ecuador, Argentina. Oh, I'm sorry. Out of that group, I off the top of my head, I don't have it.
That's fine. So it's Argentina, Ecuador, Brazil, and Uruguay, the four South American teams at this World Cup.
Yep. That I do know. That the groups right now, I'm in my head, I'm thinking of my sick child upstairs in a way. So
that's okay. No worries.
It'll be intriguing. I'm curious on what we're gonna think about this World Cup in 5-10 years. Right? What's gonna be? Is the winner going to be overshadowed by the controversy that has been built around this World Cup over the last 12 years? Yeah. Unfortunately, I think so, but
I think so. I mean, again,
we'll see.
As you said, the World Cup being shrouded in complete controversy, and whether this would be the World Cup that if England are going to win one, it'll be this one, which is the most controversial one of all. And everyone look back at it and go, well, you did win the worst World Cup ever. And we're like, whenever anyone brings up England winning the World Cup, it's like, oh, you won the one you hosted. It's like, well, whatever. This would be the one England would win if there was to be a one. But yeah, I think it wouldn't shock me if it's like if Argentina and Brazil sort of are in a crash course towards them and being, hopefully, this looks like it will be Messi's last hurrah on the international stage. If England don't win it, sorry, Jose, I'm hoping Argentina do it for Messi to end the greatest of all time debate. But yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting. I'm hopeful that it's a Brazil Belgium final. I think that would
That
be
would be good.
probably that would be the most appealing final to me. I don't know that the French have it this year, though. Then again, I didn't think that the French had it in 2018, and they surprised me. So
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes. You know, it's exciting. It's exciting that in 2026 it'll be in the United States.
carnage.
It's gonna be great. I'm
Absolutely.
thrilled. It just feels weird that we're gonna be watching soccer during Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, well yeah. In the what's it called? And on Black Fridays, England versus
Yeah,
England.
the United States. Yeah, just such a bizarre thing to wrap my head around. Where I think all of us sort of attach the World Cup with, at least in the East Coast of the United States, 90-degree weather and sitting outside with a
Oh
projector
yeah.
at night. So
Oh
just
yeah. I mean, yeah.
odd.
I mean, yeah. I mean, going out to the beer gardens in England, drinking during the day. I mean, it's going to be completely different. I mean, the running joke here was be sat outside and be sat in there with a warm cup of tea or hot chocolate watching the game, and
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
it'll be super bizarre.
Oh yeah, 100%. The atmosphere, of course, will be different as well. But again, thank you all for joining us and sitting in with us this week. It's been a pleasure to bring, just round capping off what has been an incredible union season, despite the ending, obviously. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. We should have a show in the next couple of weeks. Perhaps just probably our last show for a little bit. I mean, we're going to the union off season now until they go back into the CONCACAF Champions League against Allianz FC. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for listening this week, and we will see you soon.
Yep. Thank you so much.